So for all the viewers and the audience, thank you so much for joining Dr. Raina. Dr. Raina is expert in especially the very hot topic or which is really required also. That is called the POSH. Right, she's a trainer and the coach, especially for POSH, and this is the emerging need for the country. In all the organization, Government of India has made it mandatory to have that prevention of sexual harassment. So we will be going to ask a lot of questions to Dr. Rena, and we will be learning about what is this POSH all about. I feel personally, in all the corporates, there are we have this ICW committee. So
Yes.
the ICW committee roles and responsibilities, are they really actually doing the things? And each and every employee at the time of when you are putting them for the induction program, we know this should be a part of the induction program. We need to make this thing each and every employee
Compulsory.
responsible, responsible to follow the guideline and the especially going through the POSH. Right. So this is one thing. How do you see that? What should be the repetitive kind of training, or what is the most effective way to educate the employees in an organization?
So awareness is one thing, Pankaji. When we are walking into organizations, we always say that it's not one awareness session in a year, it's at least two or three. Now, each and every organization has a very different approach to do it. Some of them say yes in the beginning itself that we want to have two awareness sessions. Some of them they say, okay, we'll do one now and then probably they'll choose one at the maybe after the 6 months or 8 months or 9 months. Some of them say that we'll do the awareness, but we will do some other intervention. So I always say if you have a lot of inception of employees, then the induction program itself should be a little more detailed. But a lot of companies falter there where they are just keeping a module of say 10 minutes in that. The sensitivity and the approach doesn't come in there. Second, when you don't have a strong induction committee, when you don't have a talent acquisition cell, which is actually doing a background check, which is actually doing a check on the type of employees coming in, the quality of the people coming in, what is their expertise, and what has been their background in terms of the previous companies. Have they ever had any kind of issues, whether it's behavioral, whether it is any other issues that they have interacted with employees and or their manager, and there has been a problem. Those things should be a little more noted because equally that is going to aggravate situations in your present company. And not all of us have the time, but I think we should have a more stronger, the induction people. The HR who's there should take a little more role there. Again, I don't think POSH is just an annual thing. Okay, we just wake up in the last to do an annual report and audit. This should be a very quarterly, a monthly kind of an affair, and there should be different cells that are created other than the IC committee. So there can be different warrior cells, maybe a floor wise or a department wise, where we are actually saying, hey, you are responsible for these people, and you can have a look at them. If there's something which is very uncomfortable, unwanted, address it. And if there is something, then these leaders come together and say, hey, everything is fine and everything can be taken care of. So those smaller interventions help you to first create bonding. Two, people become very comfortable in sharing things with you. Three, you can create a lot of other activities which can be a combination of team bonding with the serious brainstorming, because you don't want to always do things seriously. People would not probably listen just because you're banging on their head. Okay. So we have to do it in a very subtle way, yet in a very confidential way, because at the end of the day, we are all people of the same emotion. Okay. And not even a criminal today will not become a criminal only for no reason. He would only do it because there have been some pros and cons in his life too. So I would always say, look at the bigger picture. Now, don't look at short-term interventions that yes, POSH is another training and just make it a tick mark. It should be taken in a more serious way and it should be implemented. And if everybody, a small SME, an MSME, a big company, NGO, a school, a college, everybody comes together and say, hey, we are going to do this in the same way, then there will be a system. But because everybody is not on the same page, everybody feels maybe it's relevant, irrelevant. There are different kinds and class of people that we have in India today, where the northern hemisphere thinks differently, the southern hemisphere thinks differently, the east and west don't meet. So I am not in the status to tell you that, we are all aligned. The law order system, the government, and the institutions or the educational trust and everybody in the organization should be aligned with the process. Once we are aligned, then we are like any other country, following laws, rules, and regulations.
Very nice. Now, though, so for a few learnings, for all the audience. Number one is POSH is not only pertaining to the women's at the workplace. This also applies to the men, men to women, woman to men, like, and we need to bring a lot of awareness there. The sensitivity to such trainings in an organization should be on the repetitive basis, maybe quarterly or maybe half yearly once, and it should not be a tick mark activity. You need to make it mandatory and bring the seriousness in the mind of the people while they are attending the program. Now coming to the next thing, how do you see the cases, if you can share the which pertaining to the misuse of POSH? Because now government has made a law and government of India is becoming very strict, especially for the POSH at the workplace for the women's safety. Do you see some cases are emerging like this?
So misuse is going to be everywhere. And because we are on social media and because we are going to make this video useful for people, I know that there are a list of cases that are there coming on the newspapers hitting every day and we are all reading it. But I think the use and misuse of a law is because a lot of it comes today on OTT, on Netflix, on TV, and we get influenced and inspired. Okay, won't probably take any case and we discuss that because when we discuss something, it becomes the hot topic and people start reading up on it and how they can misuse it. So today we will not be defining any particular case, but yes, I would say don't look at things as black and white. When we read about a situation, when we read about a legal practitioner, when we read about a lawyer, when we read about a company, we straight away put it in two boxes, right or wrong. Okay, according to me, according to my experience, this is wrong. So I don't like this company. And tomorrow I'm not going to be attached to this company for no reason. Whether we are doing a training, whether we are doing an intervention, whether we are being a committee member, whether we are being on retainership, whether we are doing work or corporate intervention, we just bucket them into two things. Life is not about bucketing into two black and white. Life is also about grays and colors, right? So when we are coming across these situations, unless we don't know the depth of all evidences, unless we don't know the depth of all facts, we cannot conclude. We should not start understanding, oh yes, because my neighbor talks about this situation, I should also start adding another few lines to make the importance that I know about it. Right? If we start discussing, say, about a Wipro or another company which is having some case, then we are actually trying to say, okay, that is the only company that is blacklisted. No, there are other companies who are having bigger cases today and they are still undercover. Why? Because they don't wish to bring it out. But we just see those names, we just see those big names on the newspapers and we say, hey, how come such a big case has happened? Because they're at least open about it and they're at least making their employees aware that we do have a case, but we are also a vigilant organization. We are taking steps. You should be aware. So you are in a safer place. I think it's more positive rather than negative. So that should be the kind of, openness of understanding. Yes, my company is standing up for women, standing up for men, taking care of both genders, creating a safe workplace and creating a better environment and society for our children tomorrow. I would see it in a more positive reflection rather than going into, how, why, where, when. If you're interested, then go from the first part of the story till the end. Don't go with half-handed, half-headed facts because that is quite equally dangerous for you to share that knowledge to everybody around you. And then everybody gets another perception.
Dr. Rena, you touched upon the topic about the social media, Netflix. The
Yes.
messages are forwarded on the social media like WhatsApp, like Instagram, the kind of reels people are making. Do you feel that they need to be more responsible? There certain things, we need to bring into their knowledge, right? So it's all about the impact and the on the psychology of a people, and which
Yes,
really has a larger impact at the workplace also.
true. So I remember seeing a lot of these Netflix series. I don't know, in English at least I remember this Cairo 678, Seeing Alred, Audrey and Daisy, In Car. We also have older movies like, where we see a lot of law order system. And people always say, अरे ये मूवी देखना क्योंकि ये मूवी में आपको पता चलेगा कि क्या हुआ था, क्या नहीं हुआ था, कैसे हुआ था. A lot of sexual harassment related, sexual violence related. Now we have a lot of movies, English, Hindi. Uh, but let me ask you something. If you were somebody who doesn't know about this area, think that way, that you're not a corporate person, you're just a working professional, maybe somebody from the bank or hospitals or hospitality call center, real estate, something which is not connected to corporate space where policies are followed and all that. Um, so they don't want to come near law order system, number one. Number two, whatever's happening in the world is fine. You don't know everything. So suddenly you start talking about sexual harassment, then the inquisitiveness is there that I should know more. Then when you
Mhm.
go to some series like this, you are getting more and more information and you know what to do right and wrong. If you are a very negative minded person and you are a person who's actually wanting to do something wrong because of experiences you had maybe in childhood, maybe you have undergone abuse, maybe somebody has abused you, maybe
Mm.
you want to take revenge, maybe you want to do the same thing that somebody has done to you. There can be many instances, or it's behind your mind, but now because of seeing the Netflix or OTT, it has come in the front. So now you
Mm.
have given more reason for this person to take the wrong action. That is where I say that probably having movies like we have nowadays on certain public topics. I know it's good that directors and producers are bringing up the most important social topics for us, whether it is drugs or abuse or harassment or sexual violence or home violence or husband hitting wife or wife hitting husband or showing a strong woman. These are realistic things, I understand. But for children and for our youth who are growing, it's a very negative impact because before they even know about these things or encounter these things, we are actually showing them the picture that something like this happens in the world. Yes,
Exist, yeah.
become aware, but kitna level of aware also should be very clear. The director should not go to that extent or the producer should not go to that extent of showing all the states that he would not know before his age. All the states that he should not know before he actually picks up a dagger and says, yes, even I can do it. Because some people get inspired with that. Okay, and because I speak a little bit on abuse, addiction, also showing today we had a session with where Commissioner of Police was also sharing the stage. And he said, ma'am, I would not know much as you had shared about e-cigarettes or vaping devices or devices that youth is using today.
Mm.
Okay, because this is something that we are seeing day in and day out in people who we have never expected to have. Right. So when we are not expecting and we suddenly get to know, we want to try it because आप जितना ना बोलोगे किसी को वो उतना ही करने की कोशिश करते हैं.
Yeah.
So abuse harassment is also another addiction. If you do it once and if you like it, you keep on doing it. And OTT, Netflix is kind of an influencing background because we see and we learn faster than we write or we hear or we do, right? When we see things, we learn faster, we incept faster. That's why TV is a
Yeah.
more influencing environment compared to the other sources. So yes, you might have material, POSH Act, POSH tools, policies, corporate backgrounds, all those things, but वो सब चीजें इतना affect नहीं करती है जितना हम लोग face to face चीजों को देख के impact होते हैं.
Mm.
Okay.
I
So it's
see.
not a very,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not a very positive thing, but there are people who see the positive of that and say it's nice that even I didn't know, because if I know, I'm going to share it with my child and keep them safe.
Yeah.
So that's also there. So we
So
have to
I
maintain a
see here.
balance. Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
see here, for an adult, it's okay. You watch a Netflix series where a male is having multiple relationship, a woman is having, lady is having multiple relationship, and they are in the lead character and like this. But think from the perspective of the tender mind, and your child is your son and your daughter is there with you. They may think that, okay, why this is also possible, and because of the curiosity, and they feel that this is a normal thing, right? And when this child grows and join any organization, we do not know what may popped up in the different type of scenario in the emotions. And there is a larger role for these, especially for the people, those who are creating content, making movies, making this kind of series on the social media and OTT platform. They need to be more responsible in terms of what content they are making.
Yeah. Also, I think parents had a very less role before. Okay. I don't remember my father or my mother, or I don't remember any other supporting parents discussing about these things to that extent, because we were not in the era where all these things were more prominently happening. But today, in 22nd century, now going to the 23rd, 24th, 25th, in the new century that we are operating, things are faster. Technology is evolving so much that people are forced to change. So when things are changing so fast, ethics, values, parenting becomes a very important role. We told people that under 18 nahi dekhna hai, ye only 18 ka hai, so people followed. Now if you say, okay, under 18 or under 8 or under 10 should not watch, they will go and watch. Okay, and nobody can stop them to do that. Secondly, when we are sitting, I don't think when we were seeing a movie including pornographic content or anything that is not very comfortable for a family to watch together, it was, we never used to do it. Okay, but today, because we are bringing in the inclusiveness of children sitting maturely with the parents and seeing, we also need to address and form the comfort. We forget that we are watching things together, but we don't discuss things then. After the movie is done, probably talking about a e-cigarette, probably talking about drugs, probably talking about sex or gender, or how it happened, or violence or domestic violence, or the parental or the maternal or the prenatal effect of all topics that we are talking. We never address it, so the communication is still missing. If we have evolved watching these together, we also have to talk, and you know what, we watched this movie together. I actually was not very comfortable watching this with you. How did you feel? A casual conversation, and probably discussing out, I did not like him, being a fourth standard boy. He's holding a whiskey or a beer and, he's having it. You are in the 10th. How do you see it, Bacha? So that's where, you at least try and nudge the mind and see, mama is actually asking me this, or dad's actually asking me this. Should I be doing this? And if I'm inquisitive to know, I should ask them questions. How does it feel to smoke? Or how does it feel to have, it doesn't look nice that somebody is actually forcing somebody to do some, taking things which are not appropriate. How does an abuse feel? How does it feel when somebody's harassing you behind, or even taking these statements that you come from this culture, or you are probably a more skinny guy, or nowadays there is a lot of changes in boys and girls when they grow, so they start feeling very different, because the hormonal changes are happening. They are getting a mush, they're getting a beard, the girls are changing, their entire system is changing. So even that acceptance is very difficult for children today. But we
Hmm.
saying that, okay, do you realize that there is something similar happening to you? How do you feel when you're going in front of your friends? Do they tell you that you look very funny, or they are
Hmm.
accepting you and they say, "Acha, आपका भी ऐसे है तो मेरा भी ऐसे है." Do you
Hmm.
discuss all those things among you? We don't pick up those topics. So it becomes important that topics like parenting, topics like any of the social causes, topics which might culminate into abuse, harassment, and sexual colored remarks, or corporate culture, or campus to corporate issues. These things are not going to be openly expressed unless they undergo a training, and not all kids are exposed to training. Social skills, moral skills, ethical skills, value skills. We say school teaches that, but school teaches only what is very bookish. They don't actually
Yeah.
teach you the real life scenarios. They don't discuss it out with you. That's where it should start on the 8th standard, where I see many of the even the IGSC schools start very late. They start only when they are in the 10th because they feel that anxiety sets in. I think they should start in the 6th, 7th, 8th, where kids are growing and they get to learn how to respect. And respect is not only for gender, respect is for all. So we don't
Yeah.
respect only boys, we respect boys to girls, girls to boys. So even that is something that comes in very late into our system, which needs to be taken care of.
Yeah, very good. I feel that the device what we are giving to our kids now, in older days, in our days, if you want to watch such kind of content, you need to go to theaters to watch movies. Now the movies and theaters are available on this device called mobile and the laptop. And
Absolutely.
it's a two-edged sword when you put these things, and giving them the liberty to use it, and what they are watching into their own separate room where nobody is there to observe them. And this become a series of the kind of thing which they are keep on watching, and this may result into something which you may come to know one day, and these things happens. Good. Rena, last question.
Ji.
You traveled various countries, right?
Yes.
How globally, how other countries are implementing and coping up with this such issues?
Okay, so there are different laws in different countries. There are some countries who don't have laws. So civil rights, criminal rights, and discrimination rights all are very different. In America, United States of America has sexual harassment law and it's called SH law. In Denmark, France, the European countries, again, we have different laws. So primarily, all do call it sexual harassment laws. Again, Singapore, Australia have different laws. Countries in the East, like Dubai, Kuwait, Qatar, those countries don't preferably have a sexual harassment law, but they do follow it internally in their system. Why they don't have a law? Because I think we all know that there are certain provisions that are openly acceptable by countries. So anything that is across borders where they are bringing in children, taking children, selling women, all those things might be an acceptable form for their land. So in Brazil, sexual harassment cases are restricted to being by person to a superior position. So that law becomes different. Again, in Europe, we have a directive of sexual harassment being taken under vocational trainings, promotional trainings, employment. So there are only certain categories where this law comes in. In Denmark, we have a law of 1385, December 21, which says sexual harassment law for Denmark. Again, France, we have different laws. The violation of that, you have greater fines. You have like fines for 2 years, 30,000. For 3 years, you have 45,000. So there are aggravated. Germany has laws. Spain has laws. Greece, Russia, possibly there is no law on paper, but they take care of it. Like there are many rape cases. There are many sexual harassment cases. Companies which have provisions or which has base in India or in US who are present in Russia are following the law, but other countries are not having. UK and US are the most strongest countries having great provisions of the law. Zimbabwe has Zimbabwe Relations Act, the act that maintains sexual harassment as a part of it from labor practices. Australia has, India has, in Australia and in Singapore and East, we have Sexual Discrimination Act 1984. Israel has, Pakistan again has an act which follows sexual harassment. So there are many anti-sexual harassment laws also. Sometimes they call it sexual harassment, sometimes they call it, only in India they call it POSH. Philippines, they call it Sexual Harassment Act 1985. Uh, but in every country, yes, if they have the law, it will very clearly define the word sexual harassment or anti-sexual harassment or sexual harassment according to labor laws or the act. And there are many countries in the globe that follow it. Very few countries where we know the highest level of domestic violence, criminal occurrences, and there is no law defined, then we know that they are not following it. but then there is an acceptance that all this is openly occurring there. And we don't need to mention what happens where, because then we are actually laying an allegation. But we already know that there are certain places where all these are acceptable forms. Someday, probably there will be more provisions of this law over there. We can only keep enforcing in systems that are close to us. I always say we always can say we will empower a million lives. We will safeguard a million lives. But if we start doing it from our homes, from our very closest societies, schools, and people who we encounter, that is good enough. If each one does that area specific safety occurrences, that is good enough. We cannot empower a lot of people unless each of us do our own roles and responsibilities. So with that, I say safety is not a priority. It's your birthright. Please do enforce on it for all around you and also for your families and societies. Thank you so much for having me here on this podcast.
So amazing! It itself, the session itself has become a the kind of small brief workshop on POSH, right?
Yes.
Any final message you would like to communicate to our all the viewers and the audience?
Uh, Laws and rules are not meant to be in books. Laws and rules are meant for you to feel empowered and confident. But for you to be empowered and confident, you need to reach out to them. You need to study them. You need to learn them so that you can help the future to become more bolder, confident, and stronger. So if you want a great nation, if you want a strong nation, then you have to build a strong foundation. So with that,
Yeah.
stay safe, stay secure, stay vigilant, conscious, and cautious. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Raina Khatri, for bringing a lot of value to this podcast. And I would request, all the viewers and the audience to reach out to Dr. Raina Khatri for any help and support if you require for your organization in terms of POSH. She is amongst the very few experts in the country who knows, the global, overview and the Indian scenario. Even in Indian scenario, I would say India itself is a world. You have so much of diversification, every part of the country, east, west, north, south. Even in south you have so much of diversification in everything. So thank you so much for bringing a lot of value, Dr. Rena, and wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you. Do reach out to Right to Rise, www.righttorise.in. If you want to reach out to my contact numbers or my credentials, you can look up on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. And yes, our contact details will be there. Thank you so much for having me here this morning, and we bless and assure that we will have a safe India. Thank you.